So hello and welcome to the Discovery Studio at the Beauty Triangle Festival. I hope you have been having a lovely afternoon so far. I'm Becki Murray. I'm a freelance beauty and aesthetics journalist, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce this talk, Forever Young, How to Build a More Resilient Body in partnership with BTL Aesthetics. It also gives me even greater pleasure to introduce the man to my right, Dr Mohammed Enayat, or as he's widely known, Dr E. And Dr E is a leading longevity doctor, the founder of Human Clinic in London, in South Kensington specifically, and also a spokesperson for BTL. So in our conversation today, which will last around 20 minutes, we're going to be discussing the concept of longevity, aka how we live in good health for longer, which we all want. And it's especially the technologies Dr. E trusts to help us get to that point. I know firsthand from meeting Dr. E before and visiting his clinic that he is such a great expert to discuss this topic, and I hope that you are as excited as me to hear from him. We're going to try and leave a couple of minutes at the end for questions, so please don't be afraid to raise your hand. But for now, Dr. E, shall we get straight into it?
Absolutely.
Perfect. So, please come in. So my first question is about the concept of longevity in general. So perhaps first of all, just from the audience, if we could get a show of hands, who's heard of the term longevity before?
A good show, man. Who knows what it means?
See, exactly my point. It was exactly my point. So, could you briefly describe what we mean when we talk about longevity, but also why it's becoming such a trend in wellness and aesthetics at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is really a good question because it means different things to different people, and different practitioners or different clinics have slightly different approaches. Longevity to me is the notion of being able to live a better quality of life for as long as possible, and to understand the things that reduce your quality of life over time. Your function of your body, your biological systems, and then on the aesthetic side, we've had some wonderful talks about how to slow down the external signs of aging or treat skin pathology. If we take that same philosophy and understanding of anti-aging from the outside in, and we reflect that to the inside out, the biological, the systems and the organs, we can start to understand and appreciate what longevity means to longevity specialist doctors. Okay? It's what data points, what symptoms do we display as the body slows down as we get older? What are the early warning signs of that? What are the tests we can do to identify those systems slowing down? And what are the interventions we can thereafter prescribe in a personalized manner to each patient in front of us to counteract those slowing down of those processes? And so that is longevity medicine.
Brilliant. And I know that we're probably all aware of the visible signs of aging. We talk about them as wrinkles or sagging skin or just feeling like you maybe have one too many sort of bad skin days, or it's just felt a bit different. But I'd love to discuss a little bit more about the undetected signs of aging that we should probably be aware of. So what are the things that we might not be noticing, but for good longevity we should be?
So I guess there's it starts with what you want to achieve, right? And I would just help us all understand that we are really aging from our mid-20s onwards. We're actually aging from when we're born, but we're in a pro-growth state until our mid-20s. And mid-20s to early 30s, we start to become slowly into a gradual decline phase. And there are innate mechanisms within us from, for example, stem cell production decreases as we get older. Our ability to replace our dying cells decreases as we get older, and that's a process of we call autophagy, or cleaning out our old cells. And those old cells staying around are more inflammatory, and they upregulate inflammatory processes. And that's why intermittent fasting has become very popularized over the years, and because that as a stimulate autophagy. There are other kind of mechanisms of aging, including our blood vessels becoming thicker, let's just say, or less elastic and more rigid. So our supply, like our plumbing, delivers less good nutrients to our cells. And there's a few more, including our ability to create energy at a cellular level, our mitochondria working efficiently. So we might hear these terms more and more as you start to delve yourself in a personal interest of wanting to live a better quality of life for as long as possible, or even reverse some of the early warning signs that you may have ignored or presented to your GP with, but they're not trained in identifying those early warning signs and understanding that I'm a GP myself. I still work in general practice in Lewisham 1 day a week. And so I understand what we are very good at, but what our blind spots are, what we haven't been trained in understanding. And so there are early warning signs if we're looking for them or if we're aware of them. Our ability to create energy, our ability to be resilient, to handle stress better, to sleep deep. Just think of you in your 20s, of how much energy you have, that boundless energy you have. That's on the internal systems. And then over time, that kind of, you leave those dysfunction for longer, and it turns into a disease state. And then that's where traditional medicine comes in. That's where it's excellent at being able to treat a disease once it fits into a box that we're trained to identify. Okay? And then the tests that we have identify those disease states or sick states. Then there's also the musculoskeletal system, the function physically of the body as well. Right? So we talk about the biological organs and internal systems and how they're interconnected, and then we go to the musculoskeletal system and the frame of the body. And this is another form of function, and it gives us our physical function, our ability to walk, run, lift things up, etc., etc. But there is also an inevitable decline to those systems. Our ability to put on muscle decreases as we get older. We get an increasing rate of sarcopenia, thinning of our muscles as we get older. So that's why, as we get older, it's harder to retain your muscle. We also start to get wear and tear within the joints. If the muscles start wasting, the joint space decreases, cartilage production also decreases, and thereafter we start to get, as we know, arthritic or wear and tear of our joints as well. So these are all kind of inevitable processes that if we're not mitigating against earlier on or identifying those early warning signs, what will happen? We're inevitably going to be having symptoms associated with those decline of those systems, right? So bones, we're talking about thinning of the bones. Joints, we're talking about less joint range, right? Opening and closing of the joints and having decreased space. Muscles, weakening of the muscles and ability to then function, core strength, etc., including pelvic floor. And then what are the symptoms associated with these? And we all must, I think we're very good at, just human beings generally, we're very good at dealing with the present moment, but we're all very poor at thinking about the future and planning for the future. But inevitable things are inevitable. And the human body is, there's some inevitability to these systems. And I do really want you to appreciate that and maybe reflect on that in your own time and think about how you want to live and function when you're older. And give yourself an attached sense of purpose. Maybe it's children, maybe it's loved ones, maybe it's what you do in your career and the impact that has to those, to that. Because it's very important that we think about this now, particularly in the environment we live in, which I'll come to in a second. Sorry, I'm talking about
No.
So I do want us to understand the deterioration of those systems and the impact that will have on our quality of life. Because this is why I'm sitting here right now. I advocating for the technologies that we deploy in our clinic, that I truly believe in, that are fully paid for, and then there's no kind of sponsorship of me being here. So we took on the pelvic floor, the M-cellar chair, because I didn't want my patients to have symptoms of urinary incontinence and affecting their quality of life. And you can see, I was going to say it's mostly women, it's all women in this room. And I think even men are are a lot more short-term thinking than women particularly.
We're planners.
Absolutely. And the quality of life reduction associated with urinary incontinence means you're waking up to pass urine at night. Number one, it's disrupting your sleep. Number two, it's affecting your ability to plan your days, your longer days, going for walks, etc., all the way to that as well. And there's also intimal wellness as well. And the same thing also happens to men. The M-cell is talked about mostly for women, but men also have to wake up at night to pass urine after 50 if they're not strengthening the pelvic floor. Because where the bladder neck sits is held in place by the pelvic floor. So strengthening the pelvic floor is super important, and building those muscles very, very important. But with the highly productive lives we live, and we're forced to live with social media, WhatsApp, emails, in a big urban city, is not beautiful landscapes like this, because this gives you longevity, right? We're talking about some technology that can support and give you some help in that process, but actually this is what gives you longevity.
And on that note, have people had a little bit of time do people know what we mean when we're talking about the M-cellar chair at all?
You can put your hands up if that's okay. Yeah. So the M-cellar chair is a chair that delivers electromagnetic waves of energy, 11,000 waves in 28 minutes, designed to stimulate the pelvic floor muscles. So you get 11,000 Kegel exercise equivalents in 28 minutes, or 11,000 contractions of that pelvic floor. That's a remarkable amount of contractions. And a study that BTL have done have shown that 6 sessions over a period of 3 weeks gives you the lasting effect of strengthening the pelvic floor to cause a clinically significant reduction in symptoms lasting between 9 to 12 months on average. Okay? Depending on your starting point, depends on how far strengthening will lead to the outcome. And so consultations are required. So that's what the M-cellar device is. We've been using it for about a year now with wonderful results with our patients. And I highly advocate for it. And then, when our patients do any muscle building technologies, we're talking to them about nutrition, protein intake, assimilation of those proteins, making sure their digestive function works. Are they producing enough digestive enzymes? Have they got signs of leaky gut? We have nutritionists in our team, and that works really well to kind of embed nutrition alongside muscle-based approach.
So it's definitely about a holistic approach to longevity with these brilliant, futuristic technologies building in. So actually the things that we know particularly well, for example, eating well, being hydrated, are just as important. So for example, if I want to feel sort of fitter, healthier when I sit down, or you do a little bit of exercise and your back aches a little bit, and you didn't perhaps when you were younger, how do the technologies that are on offer within the longevity space, for example, sort of MSCOP, NEO, work within a comprehensive treatment plan?
Yeah, so we use the MSCOP NEO for functional body strength improvement. So
what do you mean by functional body strength?
What I mean is the ability to function, right? And what are some inevitable declines of